I mean, there will have to be a political settlement because Israel can't survive if this war continues. You've had repeated Israeli generals retired say that in a year's time Israel will collapse of its own on its own volition because it can't continue this fight. So eventually, Hamas will not be defeated. I mean, we have another Israeli general that has admitted that Hamas is not just a physical entity, but it's a political point of view. It's an ideology, and you can't defeat that militarily. In fact, the more Israel commits genocide, the stronger Hamas gets from an ideological standpoint. So the reality is, Israel is going to have to deal with um, Gaza on the terms set by the Gazans. And right now, the leadership of the Gazans is Hamas. There are things being done to try and make such a dialogue possible, which is, for instance, China brought together 14 different Palestinian factions to create some sort of singularity that's inclusive of Hamas and Fatah, so that when Israel is ready for meaningful discussions, that which sits across from it isn't going to be called Hamas. And that might be a political compromise that has to be made in order to get not only Israel to the table, but to get Fatah, the Palestinian, the PLA, Palestinian Authority, Palestinian Liberation Organization, get them to the table as well, because there are factions within the Palestinian community that are not supportive of Hamas, that are deeply resentful of Hamas and would not participate in any, large-scale discussions or dialogue, with Hamas representing them all. So, what China did, and again, Russia played an important role in helping facilitate this. China is at least moving in the direction of creating a governance entity that Hamas factors in, but it's not called Hamas. And at some point in time, Israel will have no choice but to sit down at a table across from them. Will be sitting somebody from this entity. That's the only way this ends. This doesn't end in an Israeli victory. That's for sure.
If you were Chinese, how do you feel about the attitude of the United States when it comes to Gaza? Because they were trying to bring these groups together, but we see that the United States attitude is totally different. They're trying to help Israel in whatever they want to do in Gaza. Do you think that they're feeling that the United States is helping these negotiations or something else?
I don't think there's anybody in the world, including Americans, if they can speak off camera, who believes that America is facilitating in a positive way negotiations. We have betrayed ourselves by siding so strongly with Israel. And in fact, the irony is, by siding so strongly with Israel, we've actually done Israel a great disservice, because we would have been better positioned had we retained a modicum of independence, where we could be trusted as a broker. And then we could, help babysit a peace process that maybe gave Israel more of what they're looking for. But today, nobody trusts us. And one of the reasons is all we bring is death and destruction. Our only solution is more war, more weapons, more confrontation. I mean, China comes in and their solution has nothing to do with war. It has to do with facilitating peace, creating opportunities for dialogue that leads to, economic, political stability that translates into economic stability. So I think there's growing recognition in the Middle East and indeed around the world that if you take American hand of friendship, it's going to lead to a conflict that will probably end up destroying you. I mean, the Ukrainian precedent is there, but so is the Kurdish precedent, so is the Afghan precedent. The United States hasn't hit one out of the ballpark in terms of, a conflict that promotes its geopolitical position in a long, long time, and we're not going to. The world is tired of war. The world is exhausted of war. The world is looking for peaceful outcomes, and the United States therefore becomes part of the problem, not part of the solution, because all we know is war.
How do you find Iran right now? Do you think they're going to attack Israel within 72 hours, as Washington is pointing out?
Iran has every right to attack Israel anytime it wants to, given what Israel did in terms of assassinating a senior Hamas official in Tehran. Um, but Iran has to look out for Iran's best interest. You know, and Iran also has to keep an eye on the bubble. If Iran is part of a resistance that's dedicated to supporting the notion of the creation of a Palestinian state, understand that they're winning right now. They're winning. We just had a long discussion about how difficult of a situation Israel's in. And one of the reasons why there won't be stability down the road is because of the role Iran plays in facilitating the efforts of the axis of resistance to keep Israel destabilized. The Houthi, Iranian militias, Syrian militias, Hezbollah, Hamas. Um, so if Iran were to decisively engage, it changes the whole dynamic of this conflict from one where the axis of resistance, the Palestinians are winning. It's a difficult fight. When I say winning, that doesn't imply they're ready to have a parade down Main Street, but it's ugly. The genocide is real. The death of these Palestinian civilians is real. This is a real struggle. It's not easy, but they're winning because Israel itself acknowledges it can't sustain this indefinitely. It can't even sustain it for another year. So if you're winning, why do you want to change the algorithm of success? And attacking Israel massively could do just that. It could trigger a response from Israel that includes the United States participating, something the United States has been hesitant to do. In fact, has said to Israel, we aren't going to participate in an attack against Iran. But if Iran strikes Israel with such ferocity that it threatens the strategic viability of Israel, the United States may have no choice, both from preserving a geopolitical posture in the region, but also from a political perspective, especially if Iran strikes now in the midst of a presidential election. Now Biden is saying, well, gosh, if I join in on this attack, I get involved in another Middle Eastern war. Trump has said that that's all I do. Do I want to empower Trump? If I do this, the economy is going to tank. That's going to hurt Harris. And so now American domestic politics factors into this. So, the Iranians are pretty savvy. They're very savvy people. They don't want to do anything that changes the trajectory. And I remember the trajectory isn't just focused on Gaza and creating a Palestinian state. Iran is worried about Iran. I mean, they are going to be a major presence in the upcoming BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, in October. If there's a major Middle Eastern conflict, nations aren't going to attend. The conference will collapse. All the work that Russia and Iran and everybody else has been doing to promote BRICS, to position it for success, will be undone. And so I don't see Iran willingly falling into that trap. And again, Netanyahu is constrained. He was able to carry out an assassination in Tehran, but he hasn't been able to carry out a massive attack because Israel lacks the capacity to do so without American help. And at this juncture, America is not inclined to help. And so we have a situation where, again, escalation management comes into play. But Iran doesn't want to. Iran's on a good trajectory right now, a good trajectory. They're leading an axis of resistance that's prevailing against Israel, and they're part of this growing multipolar world that challenges American hegemony, the rules-based international order. They're in a very good position. So I don't see too much pressure being placed on the Iranian government to launch a massive strike against Israel at this time.
Don't you think that they're trying to make the Iranian role on October 7, the way that Gazans, Palestinians attack Israel, they're trying to just make it unbelievable, because right now the Trump team is trying to say that the Biden administration sent the money to Iran. That's why Iranians were capable to provide Gazans with weapons and whatever they need, and they were able to attack Israel. Do you think it's part of this 2024 presidential election? It's something domestic, or they're really believing that Iran was behind all of this, and because of the money that the Biden administration sent to Iran, Iran was capable of doing that?